It's time to get stuck in with the biggest, the baddest war chief around. Today, we have Mark Perry, where we're going to talk about what's the state of the orcs now? What about the enemy's upcoming gets that we got to get crumpin? And what is Perry himself actually doing? So, with that being said, let me introduce him. If you don't know, this is Mark Perry. He's a member of Hobby Goblin, so you can check out that channel where they have bat reps. He plays competitively, former Art of War coach, general, just champion as it can be, great orc player, and any other credentials you want to add there, Mr. Perry, that I might have passed?
I'm a self-proclaimed mech. I work on tractors.
Shoot, we
I
needed a
take
mech
care of the
earlier, boy.
streets.
We were coming up in here, right?
Yeah, not
We
me
needed a
though.
mech. We're having some technical difficulties here. But we're orcs, so what can you say? What can you say? And shout out to the chat. This is live, so get what you guys want to say. We're reading it. We're here for you. And so with that being said, get stuck in, lads. So Mark Perry, how you doing? And how you feeling about the orc after the data slate, some of the changes? What's going on?
Man, I'm feeling great. I like, the changes do make me sad at times. Shock attack gang can only go up so many points, and I'll still take it. But at the same time, I'll play with other things too. The meta as a whole feels great for orcs. I feel like my play style, but also like, man, orcs just feel really good at the moment. Like, there's a lot of crumping, there's a lot of fighting, and it's a good time to be a git. You're not shooting them as hard, but you can still shoot them hard, and you can still stab them.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that because some people would feel a little bit on the opposite side, right? So the guys who are playing the more of the outskirts, maybe detachments, or they're used to what they're used to. There were some changes that I kind of didn't like. What I would say, just to kind of get back to, is like the bomb squig change.
Yeah.
Um, that it was kind of unfortunate to see it move in a even less effective way. Kind of seems like a useless war gear at the moment.
Yeah, no, that one's definitely one of the ones that was really clunky already
Hmm.
because more often as an orc, you're typically advancing, and throwing out a bomb squig is a little awkward at times. Like, you really do it when you establish a good, strong forward position and you kind of just walk forward. But man, I like the tactical brigade list that can throw out all these bomb squigs really efficiently. They're cost more now, and I don't know. They're still really handy, and they're free war gear at the end of the day. Ain't gonna complain there, but the utility of like being able to deal with random small stuff behind the walls, it was really nice.
Yeah, and I don't see it as free. I think GW puts that to equation when they choose to only make us go down 10 points, right? So maybe it's like free in theory, but on the back end it's in that way, but not really. I think we pay for it. So that was unfortunate, but I would say people also, like you said, the shock attack gun that was bringing people down, and that's what people here we're hearing as our community from competitive side and from people who are just regular casual players who are still feeling good is like the state of the game, the mission play, the enemies we're up against. This basic war horde pressure, crumpin, getting stuck in still works very well. The
Mm-hmm.
core tenants, what I like to call the meat and potato of the orcs, Waaagh, still holds strong. It's the other aspects that I think are more in question. But what do you think about that in that case? Do you think the other detachments have play? Do you have, like, off the top of your head, which ones you see have merit and which ones are more about maybe memeing out or just having a good time? Do you have like a in your head kind of like a tier list almost?
So, whatever you were saying for the past like 10, 15 seconds, I didn't hear any of it. It cut out. So, sorry, Chad, if I was the one cut out. You
It's
may
okay.
have to repeat that question because I didn't hear any of it. It
Not
just
all
went
good. I can
still.
hear you well. I can hear you well. So, in summary, if you had to rank the detachments on what you're going to spend your time on using, which are just for the passion of it, where would you kind of put these detachments in your head? And you're looking at which ones you're just kind of, in theory, messing with, but not realistically going to put on the table.
For me right now, but I have put on the table and I'm really experimenting with right now. The top two for me, is Mordaka,
Mm.
um, and the Big Hunt. I am toying with Big Hunt stuff a lot right now and figuring out some cool niche ways to make it play and ideas how I'm attacking and utilizing honestly a really good pool of strats, a decent detachment rule, but solid data sheets. And then more DACA, like I'm loading the heavy custom mega blasters and mapping people out here. I have undefeated
Yeah,
with
you
more
are.
DACA into Death Guard, which is hilarious to say. And I'm trying to sit there and say like I'm really toying with that one. I'm really enjoying it. I'm doing a lot of the ideas that I had with more DACA pre nerfs, put it back down because I never got put on the tabletop at the time. Just life situations, but now repicking it up and exploring it, I'm like, yeah, it's not as crazy, but there's still a lot of high level play options here and a lot of utility and just tempo plays.
How do you feel
Um,
about Cult of Speed maybe right now? That's one that I
I
think is on the air a lot. I put it on the table a little bit here and there. A lot of people are talking
Yep.
about it. How do you feel about it?
I really like it. The thing is, I need to play around with like what does it ultimately do, right? What is it best at? Is it a flexible detachment? Is it just a jail detachment? Because it almost feels like a jail detachment in a way. Is it flexible? Is it just sneaky all the time? Because its damage output is not on surface level. You could say for orc level, right? Even for like someone like I'm really good about bringing out the damage out of like factions or lists
Mm-hmm.
that is not intuitive, doesn't on surface level make a lot of sense. And I see some of it there, but I see a lot of it not there. Like I still don't care much for Def Coptas for I think in comparison of like Tank Bustas. Like, there's similar points now, and I still think Tank Bustas inside of that detachment will be better than the Coptas.
Mm-hmm.
But like the buggies, I really like scrap jets. I've been playing around with scrap jets in some detachments, and I want them to just plug them in as like a utility starter. A couple first turns or rapid ingress player, but I haven't had the opportunity to really figure out what's realistic for all of the buggies when it comes to
Yeah.
damage.
That's kind of where I'm
Right? Like,
feeling that too. Where's that balance of am I just bringing the keyword and then being only a jail that lacks damage? But then you kind of fall off there, right? If you can't kill enough of them, you can't control the rate of attrition and really keep them jailed long enough to offset the
yep,
score for you to win at the end game. So it's like trying to find that, medium ground. I haven't really found it yet, and some matchups just seem pretty hard. But I think
yep,
it totally has play. Just being able to advance and charge,
absolutely.
fall back, shoot and charge. And the buggies are now at a cost where they're just super efficient for such a cheap points value, right? Like you said, this Megatrax Grabjet, what, 75 points? That's just kind of like point for point, good amount of wounds at a great toughness with potential damage. That's how I feel about Cult of Speed, potential
Yeah,
damage. But it doesn't ever really like come to full fruition, at least not consistently. What
yeah.
about of the beloved Bully Boys? What do you think about beloved Bully Boys?
So I'm building some bully boys right now. Kind of ideas for teams. I haven't thought about them for singles at the moment. But like it could probably honestly still just work as well in singles. Definitely if you kind of know what the terrain layouts are. If you're playing a lot of terrain layout one, like and 7 and 8, which I think those two are going to be a lot more popular now than they were in the past
Yeah,
in
they look
singles
they're more
events.
appealing for sure.
Yeah, Bully Boys hilariously taking like 3 units of Mega Knobs, and that's the only stuff I'm using strats for.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
and I'm playing with Gaz. That's rare for me because I have Makari hates me. He just fails everything. First
No.
save of the day fails. Second save of
It's
the
because you
day,
scare him, dude. It's because you scare him. You probably yell at
yeah.
him right before he starts rolling his 2-up invul and he drops the flag, drops
He
the
remembers
banner.
that
You
one
didn't
time
scare
I
him.
stepped on him. That's the problem.
Yeah, that makes sense, dude.
And playing around with Bully Boys with a castle can pressure, still do it work things,
Yep.
but playing with that on the ideas like I've done for triple solo mech guns inside of that detachment. I'm doing DACA jets in there. I'm doing free rocket truck squig buggies. I'm adding this hilariously indirect direct shooting elements to the army where, hey, look, I can screen my backfield, I can fool some forage range, and I beat up trash stuff, therefore I can get to the really juicy targets with Mega Nubs. Right? Like now, I really like the Fury for it. It's like a good, strong control, uh, aggressive control melee army that has great shooting to back it up, which is a great element to have. It's just a matter of gotta put it on the tabletop, figure out what it works against, what it doesn't work. Um, and is 18? I don't, is 18 mega knobs not enough? Is it too much? I gotta figure out the math. It's like
Yeah.
Gaz and double Big Mechs and Mega Armor with them is very interesting. Or do I just want to go Gaz and 2 War Bosses because like the War Bosses just slap so hard? It's like seeing options like that. I'm like, whenever I get the opportunity, I'll toy with it some more. But right now, my full focus really is on the Mordaka with an event tomorrow, and then I have the big hunt in the back burner of my head right now. Um, for ATC coming up. Like both of these are very live,
Yeah.
and there's way too many options. I think that's one of the great things about this book
Yes.
is the data sheets are good when you put them in the situations that need to be in, and that's one of the biggest problems with like learning out the speed freaks and detachment is we got to learn what those data sheets are good. What situations are they thriving in, right?
Mhm.
Like I'm right now experimenting with a lot of squig buggies. I went on RT with TT with squig buggies. I look at the metas. I'm like, these things are great. I seek the metas before the balance site and even now. More on that some later, but figure out what the rest of the squig bug, figure out what the rest of the buggies are doing. Like, are shock jumps like really good at 70 points, teleporting around, doing positional secondaries, are screening, are when they get advanced to shoot and sniping people. Um, which one is of the other two? Which is a snag wagon and
The
I
custom
forgot
boosted
the other
blast
one.
to me isn't that good.
Boost Blaster. Yeah.
That's like the least interesting one to me.
Yep.
And we'll talk about more about what you're doing more, and because we have three things we're gonna like big sections we're gonna talk about today, guys. But we're gonna talk about what you're doing personally. Though I have dabbled in what you're speaking of with the buggies, with indirect buggies and stuff like that. So honestly, that does have merit, and I do like that. But I think Warhorse does play right. I think you kind of just step over, but it's not because we don't know that. It's because it's kind of obvious that it still has its play. We covered that. But what about Tactical Brigade? How are you feeling about Tactical Brigade in this case? Shock
I'm
attack
still
gun's kind of pricey, but
I still think the list can do some really dumb things. Like now we're losing like maybe a shock attack gun. Like still having like two major transports, flash kits. You just can't put a point value until you get the unplayable points value for that flash kit prick, right? Um, probably not having triple shock attack guns. I'm probably dropping one. Maybe I have just a naked tank busters. But like, I still really like its ability to just go over the top, and the Furious that has been for the past 6 months with it. It's just way lesser, and the redeploy best enhancement. It's a game changer when you understand 40K to a level where you can look at the board state and deployment and say, I know how this game should go in the first three turns of the games. I can read my opponent's deployments, understand their lines, and know what their plans are. And if you can disrupt them with the redeploy, Orks, as soon as Orks get to disrupt people's deployments, their movement phases, and their overall game plan, that's a huge advantage for Orks. Like Orks live on disrupting a people.
yeah.
And I still think the detachment has a lot of play. I just think at the moment it doesn't have as much damage because like what I'm worried about it with at the moment is it's the what type of warhorde or tactical raid list does really solid into Death Guard. Death Guard's a historically very bad matchup for us, and I think that detachment has some play into them, but I also think it has some problems into them. And I'm trying to work around that, right?
The points feel pretty tight on that list. I feel like you're pretty low on assets, and as soon as you kind of
Mm-hmm.
make a mistake, out of position, get caught, you start
Yep.
losing assets quick. Nothing's really that tough, but it does have play. Still really killy. Orders
Yep.
can be cool. I'm still under the impression that I wish they let us keep two orders for like bikers and mounted at least. That so at
Mm-hmm.
least we could dive a little bit into that. But it is what it is. And
It
then
is what
last
it
but not
is.
least, we got Dread Mob and Green Tide. I think Green Tide still holds strong for what it is and the people who are running it. But I know you like Dread Mob just like me. So I, not too many big Dread Mob runners are too popular of a detachment. But to the gits out here that are big mech lovers and play Dread Mob, how you feeling about that? I mean, have you found a new place for the love in Mordaka in that case, maybe? Or
So like I think Dread Mob and Mordaka do very similar things right now. I think like more
Mhm.
our Dread Mob last year was very much the Orc control army, right? Like really good positional play, asking you to be really technical with both your Gretchen placement, how
Heck
you maximize every single little data sheet. You had some damage elements, but you had a abundance of resources. You know, you can battle line Gretchen. Zod got a 12-inch reactive move. You have some good damage units, but now I think my more Daka list and my Dreadmob list would be near similar. Like you could just
Right.
take the detachments and push into them,
Oh.
and they're doing slightly different things at that point. But I think right now I really like the mobility that Mordaka gives you with Assault versus like Dreadmob is a little bit weak to a tape measure. Like if you can kind of like not get around this ruin because one, it's way far forward and it's a developed board state, or it's the beginning of the game and you just misdeployed and you just can't punish your opponent for damage. Dreadmob King still get a little behind, and again, it doesn't have the overall unit quality. You know, its damage output, comes from the button, great, but a lot of it, you got to worry about running a bunch of ones and twos on hazardous, and a lot of your damage is dealt out of strats, right? And you're going to soup up one unit, and it's really good when it's good. When that unit just hits, it's insane.
Yep.
But we're in the scene where, like right now, like Warhammer is a lot of not as many power units being successful, but a lot of units across the board being above average is how you win.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And I felt like that too, where it's like, well, I can overkill this one guy pretty hard, and then after that, it kind of ran out of juice to pick up or damage significantly the rest of the assets. You know, one thing we mentioned a little bit was that indirect wagon buggies. I actually did use those in Dreadmob to make up for that falling back behind and a little bit of our speed deficit. So there is some fun playing that, and I think it has merit. But as you said, they look very similar to my more DACA list the more I play them out. And as we talk about the new enemies that are coming up and their new opponents, I can see why you're moving towards more DACA too. But let me hit these super chats real quick so we don't fall behind as we move on to the next part. We're actually going to talk about the new metas because I think you fleshed out how you feel about each detachment. I don't think you don't gotta go in circles around there. But shout out to Mr. Andrew Stone with actually 11, which was an odd number, but 11 Wall Tactic membership. So, whoa, to Andrew Stone for that. You get super generous of you. Thank you very much. You get super supportive. He says, Juan chat, weird boys with the breakup boys for the shock and wah effect. Let's go. I know a lot of people like that, jumping around with the weird boy and then charging in. They're like, I don't feel like paying for a truck. I'd rather just be where I want to be. And then we have Murder Mouth Blood X. Whoa, Blood Moons. Whoa, 5 Wall Tactic memberships. Let's go. He says he liked using the buggies and he appreciate the stream on Wednesday with Jank. I know you've been busy, so you haven't got a chance to check it, but Jank actually does have a message for you specifically here to build off the back of Murder. Thank you for that, Murder. Very generous. And it looks like Jank has something to say too. He says, for the end of the stream. Oh, never mind. I'm gonna put you away, man. He said for the end, man. I'm gonna respect it. All right, so we have to respect it. We'll go to that one. But as we're talking about the new opponents, so we have Death Guard, World Eaters, Thousand Sons, Emperor's Children, and Chaos Knights. And people don't really know, but you have a Chaos side to you. You have, a little bit of the Corn Berserkerness in you hidden down there. So, tell us a little bit about your Chaos love and your perspective as a Chaos lover, and then how you kind of take that through the lens of an Orc player going into these Chaos factions, right?
So, putting some context, I'm originally an OG Chaos. Even though my first models I owned were Orcs, and I dabbled with them growing up, my first thing when I got good at learning how to play this game was with Chaos stuff. When Magnus was released, I got to win my first GT with Magnus. I've won with Magnus Morty. Just Morty. I play around with all the Chaos factions. Some crazy janky soup of just like stuff that I can tell you how it works back then, and for newer players, it would just sound ridiculous. Complicated board states where I can just make it where a model position where you can't shoot my whole army because this is closer, but this body blocks this one. Stuff like that. But when we went for that transition in 9th edition where Orcs really got a redesign from the ground up to function at the core of what they are now, that's when I jumped back on there because like the Chaos books were not doing it as great. We were living in a world where all the Chaos Marines had 1 wound and all the Imperial Marines had 2 wounds.
I remember that.
Um, I remember like with my Emperor's Children playing against the new Orc Codex, and I sat there, I'm like, I just killed over 1,000 points of Orcs turn one, and then all my one wound Orcs died to big shooters, or all my one wound Marines died to big shooters, and I got tabled practically. And I'm
So
like,
bad. That's too
I
bad.
just halfway killed you, and you still just killed me back. This is the problem.
Yeah.
And this
Cool.
is years and years back, and like I was like already planning on playing it, but like I was playing with all kinds of different things. That new foundation of Orcs, how the Waaagh, what we recognize as the Waaagh, got designed back then, and I think how Orcs data sheets kind of work, the ideas of them,
Can I
and it
unpack that a
stands
little
true for
bit?
today.
Can
Yeah.
I unpack that a little? Because it's funny that you say that because I was just looking at all three of my codexes that I have and I own because I started in 8th edition. And I was
Mm-hmm.
looking for the Waaagh as the way we know it now. There was no Waaagh in 8th edition in that same sense. You did have Here We Go, and you had Gaz had an aura of a Waaagh where you could advance in charge, but that didn't exist. And then 9th edition, like you said, is when that got introduced. And we got these
Mm-hmm.
two, they actually had two different Waahs in that case. We had the Speed Freak one and this one. So people who didn't know back then, that's the development. It went from we didn't even have a proper Waaagh, as you see it now, to then we had a progressive Waaagh almost, or not progressive, but it was a started off hot and then it degressed into lower, and then now we have the one that you're familiar with today. Just to kind of give people some context for what he means by that. But yeah,
Yep.
continue. So you were revisiting the Waaagh after you had your fun living in the eye of the grin of Gork, and Gork's grin. You were hanging out in there, and then we you shot out, and now you're back all walled up on an attack moon. So
Yep.
how would you when you now you're looking back on them? They got new rules. They are appealing. This is supposed to be the year of chaos. Why didn't that draw you back? It seems like instead you're tuning your Waaagh to actually counter them. So tell us the love factor about that, but then circle back and let us know why you wanna crump them kids, because I'm here for it.
So there's like a multitude of reasons. Okay, one is I understand Orc. I've played so much Orcs and I love it, and I like the idea that I can just build list, know how it works. I don't need to practice that much to have success with a theory, with an idea. Right? There's that. This edition really awards faction mastery, and once you have that unlocked, Warhammer is both way more enjoyable. You can experiment more, but you're also going to have a lot more success, right? Because you know the matchups, you know how your army, what it's weak to, how it works, a lot of scenarios. As I say, all the way back when this, ninth edition, when this style of what we recognize as Orks and how they play, and the wall mechanic, all that data, all the way back then that I have saved in my head, all this practice, all these theories, they all still work, and I can develop on them and enjoy them. It's a lot of reward. There's a lot of reward to continuing playing them. Like a few months ago, I did take a detour. I played Shadow Legion. I went and won a GT up in Tennessee Elite Open. If you are close to it, up in Clarksville, should go. Shout out to them because like that event was awesome. But afterwards I was like, I'm gonna play with some of children. And I was playing with some Emperor's Children passively the past month. I really enjoy that army. It's so fast. I think Orc players and Emperor's Children players can be almost the same player. Like I think there's a lot of
Hmm.
similarities there. You're just playing really different elites with Emperor's Children. The thing is, that's a whole new horse. You got to learn all the different things. That
Yeah.
army, it doesn't have Orcs at 4 times the data sheets. If I want to experiment with different detachments or different unit compositions inside of detachments, Orcs allow that to be done. I enjoy that, and I think anyone that enjoys list building, Orcs give you that ability to. Versus a lot of Chaos factions right now, they really don't give you a lot of options of
No,
builds. Like
I don't have anything.
Emperor's Children ain't got a lot of day sheets. World Leaders, man, they got a real change up on this one. They went back to more of their roots where they lost advanced charge. This is the first edition where they've had advanced charge
Hmm.
to give some people context for newer players. And then they took it back, majority of the way through this edition. So like I really like World Leaders, like my favorite lore when it comes to like legions. But they just feel lesser than orcs. If I want to go crumpin, I want to hit you with an axe, let's just go play an orc codex. And I could do it in so many different ways. Um so that's the genius I think behind the what Orc Codex is sometimes they at weeks, but it allows you can develop, and you're a very adaptable mushroom. You can do
Yep.
whatever you want to. Read the room.
Absolutely. That's what I try to tell people when I tell them when things are down and you're kind of in the learning curve of orcs. Think of it as a long-term investment, because when you build up those fundamentals and you get used to how to really play our faction and develop our codex and pull out all the resources and expand on the data sheets, you get way
Yep.
more success even in your personal groups, to where you can end up being a menace because people are just not used to overcoming our identity of 40K and our style of 40K. It's quite unique in some ways. And I think just the learning curve is what kind of gets people, right? Because in that same uniqueness, there's a difficulty. There's a lot of difficulty there. So I'm glad you're repeating the things I kind of say around here. And I'm not just saying it to boost people up so they can keep playing orcs. I'm saying it because I mean it. And as you said, what we learned, even though I make this a joke sometimes, if you haven't seen, sometimes I say we've been playing the same rules since 8th edition because Goffs had sustain back then and you're doing similar things, right? But
Yep.
in those cases, I do mean, as you said, those same strategies and board presence and staging and aggression and combat prowess and tagging people and bad touching, those are all basics in the game back even in 8th edition. You would still try to touch people because you couldn't hide. You could see through buildings. There was no such thing as, line of sight blocking in that sense when people would play. So you had to get used to the meat and potatoes in that way, and it still exists. So I'm glad you said that. So I just wanted to expand, like, guys, this is what I'm saying. I'm not just talking you guys up about the faction. Longtime players who've been playing much longer than me will tell you, just stick to it. And when you do develop your Waaagh, when you personalize it and you develop the codex and the basics, you will really peak as a player and in your own meta. So then now you're looking at them and you're like, I can actually expand my own skill, right? You're thinking I can actually express my own skill, to its most degree, because I can actually experiment and have fun. So now you're looking back on those guys as prey, right? Because it's kind of like that enemy you're so familiar with, because you could pilot some of those factions to a certain degree too, but you're even more familiar with ours. So as an orc looking at them, what do you think is in the kind of beakies when you're sizing them up, right? Like we said, Death Guard, kind of known for a tough one. World Eaters, though, if you're playing Warhorde, a lot of the time that was seen as kind of a favorable win for us because they ran out of assets. They weren't good at trading. We were good at killing them because they're not really that durable. Fight on death is a heck of a thing against them. How do you feel about the rest of
guns back then? Now they have guns.
Yes, now they have guns. Now they have good, reliable guns. So how do you take these matchups? You can start with World Eaters, and then we can go through the couple Chaos factions there.
Yep. So World Leaders right off the bat is the one where I think, like you said, we had a lot of strong advantages because they didn't have guns. Forge Fiends were not what they were now.
No.
And then also they were so elite. Okay. They just had a hard time. When you trade point for point, the amount of damage 9 points of one boy did versus one of their models that was, 5 or 6 boys combined. Way different. And the amount of ways you can kill. Now now I see it's dropped down a little bit. I think if we're talking Berserker Warband, more or less, because I think that's the one that's going to be is the most popular. I really like KDK, our Corn Demonkin. Hilarious. That's something I used to love and play so much back in the day. But I think those matchups are different. Yeah, I love soupy stuff. Like,
yeah.
They're only going to be started on taking Bellacore, Mortarion, Abaddon, a Dreadclaw, Lucius, and a Helldrake all in one army. And I want a GT with that. Those Leagues of Extraordinary Idiots was the name of the list.
That's a good name.
Yep. But with that, back to the main point, is Berserkers going down to Strength 4 is a big change. And Berserker Warband helps with that because making Strength 6 important breaking points for Orcs. But when they get stuck in combat, they ain't got Fight First no more. And they're Strength 4. So like you bog them down with a bunch of units, you will just handle Berserkers pretty safely when you hit them up with 5 or 6 Orc units at one time, or even 3 or 4. So in those matchups, I look at it like, hey, look, this is army. It doesn't have advanced charge anymore. We got advanced charge. Awesome. We got some guns. We got screens that are way better than their screens when you consider Bay. Yeah. You compare Jackals to Grots and Zogrod. Zogrod is just what 8-bound used to be, but better in every way. And you get all these. The World Leaders ones are still really elite, and you don't have to worry about Angeron coming back 3 or 4 times. Been there, done that. Don't have to worry about that no more. I think the World Leader matchup is very favorable for us. I think what we need to be careful of is knowing not to get greedy against them because of Forge Fiends. We need a certain level that we can handle Forge Fiends respectively and not get instead jailed by World Leaders pressuring up on us and shooting us with Forge Fiends. We can't touch the Forge Fiends. Because the Forge Fiends are like tank busters into us, right? And tank busters and other orcs hurt really hard. Like blast is a good rule on infantry.
Absolutely.
Um, and their Overwatch potential. Their Overwatch potential, those things when you get with an 18 is pretty legit. Good at killing an orc unit, typically in Overwatch. So, ways that you can jail them, or just fight them goes in later when we talk about like what I'm looking at taking, how I handle those situations. You need to build up plans to be able to handle it. Either one, outright kill them, screen them out and body block them and get a tempo advantage, and so forth. So that's one of the ways you got to learn how to handle the Forge Fiends in that army now, and still not just lose the melee game because you over respected the Forge Fiends or you just disrespected them. Make sure that extremes on both sides aren't happening. You need to play a good fair game, and then once you get that really strong position where you're just like, okay, we're gonna fight everywhere on the board, that's when you start pressuring, right? Don't run at them really ignorant because at that point, yeah, they don't have advantage yards, but you ran at them so fast they don't need it because you're at their doorstep. Let the world leaders move up a little bit and see if they overextend, and take advantage of the fact that they are overall threat ranges are not what they used to be. They're more consistent. Their threat ranges are now more consistent because the base movements are higher, but the potential is, the ceiling is way lower. Um, and take advantage of, you know, they don't have field pains anymore. I think that
Mhm.
really helps a lot too.
They have almost
Because
no defensive capabilities other than the strat to reduce damage by 1 in combat. That's like they
yep,
kind of live off that best they can.
yep,
And I think a couple of their demon princes, I think one of them can have some defensive buffs. I'm not really sure if I remember that correctly. But yeah,
they can some of them.
they are soft. And like you said, I actually had a moment where I was over too zealous not too long ago against them. I was on a streak, and I was like, it's fine. I'm just
Uh-huh.
going to approach them again. And I guess now they have an ability where they can disembark from their rhino if you
Yep.
encroach on it. And typically I'd be like, well, this looks like a good wrapping potential here, boy. And I moved in on it. It was not a good wrapping potential. It was not good. I was in danger. So yeah, there's a lot of good play for us there. They are quite soft. They will run out of assets if you do pressure them and they have to respond to you. We can still get good trades out of them. And one thing that I think we're going to talk about maybe as well is the toughness factor. It seems like
Yep.
something like a Gork, a Mork, even though they can still get kind of annihilated, there is play because they don't have that same reliable peak punching potential to outright disrespect a Mork or a Gork anymore. At least not from my experience.
Yep.
Like the Demon Prince that has like 40 damage, for example, he can maybe, but other than him, they don't have that same kind of oomph, at least from what I've experienced. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, I think that's absolutely correct because like they kind of got what Orks did at the beginning of the session, where like their overall strengths just keep getting weaker. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the reasons why Berserker Warband helps. Like +2 strength was great on the charge, but a lot of the units you talk on the charge are at strength 6 and 10s. Those are the breaking points, right? And that goes with that. What the market works like. As soon as they're asking them to wound on 5s, no one likes winning on 5s, and world leaders aren't exactly bringing a lot of twin link to help out with that. And when you have to deal with mass and you're hitting it on multiple different units, there's all kinds of these, technical plays where you're like, hey, I based this Gorkanaut into this unit of 8 bound, but the rest of the 8 bound got based by a Grot, and then the Gorkanaut only touching one dude, and this guy's not based with anyone else. This
Yeah.
one 8 bound can only swing on this Gorkanaut. He ain't doing nothing. If it
Boy,
was a result in 8 bound in the past, I may be worried, but they are gone.
Yeah, no, it's true. That's exactly how it is. Like you said, our screens are better, and if someone won't, charge your screen or interact with it, well, you force it on them, right? Well, you're still gonna fight these grots, boy. But yeah,
Yep.
that's good for world leaders. What about Thousand Suns? Well, I'm not too familiar. I don't have a bunch of Thousand Suns play around me. I have one really proficient one, and I haven't got to see him in a while. So how about you with Thousand Suns? I mean, they seem like they're still susceptible to what orcs like to do to them.
Yep.
So
There's a huge tempo advantage there.
yeah.
Magnus is not as strong as he was. I didn't have problems with orcs because I just ignored Magnus until the end game because like orc units just trying to map out Magnus is not good.
No.
Like
Hmm.
that's one of the reasons why the mortal wounds. Like anytime you find the orc list where you're like, I can grenade you, I can tank shock you. I got mortal wound strat charge from multiple different codexes. I got squig bombs out the wazoo. I got a squig mine now from a wrecker truck squig buggy that I will shove
Yeah.
free down your throat if I get the opportunity. And try to get one of those 4-ups off.
Look at you
But
selling a dream right now, boys. You hear that? We just sound like we got
absolutely,
50 mortal wounds. In reality, I rolled a bunch of ones and twos. No, I was kidding.
yep,
No, but yeah, it is exciting. You're right. But you can't really go for Magnus, especially when we lack that more, in my opinion, now than before between the bomb
yep.
squigs. At least
And
the bomb squigs.
I'm trying to say Rubric are just good against those units are good, but we have to make sure that we stage and tempo and start tagging stuff. We can't play a control game with that army. That's an army where turn one we're going to reposition most likely up if they don't go forward, and then just mess up their secondary game. Keep them from getting behind us. Fight them on the front. Fight them in their half of the table, and keep them from holding objectives. You hold objectives, and eventually you're going to trade a lot of bodies. You're going to kill a bunch of their guys. You're going to kill a bunch of your guys. They may end up on top at the end of all the fighting. You may end up on top at the end of the fighting. But the problem is you are affecting their scores so bad for so long that they're going to have a hard time establishing control. That's an army, as soon as it has control, it's really hard to upkeep it or really hard to break it down. It's really hard to just upset Thousand Suns when they have established the tempo and the control of the game. And it's a slower, they're a high damage, a little bit more slower army that likes to take you apart in the right ways if you don't just give them the, I'm going to table you aspect. And most armies in the games do not have the tools to just go over the top with them. And orcs are one of them. So I feel really good about that matchup. The new demon princes do give me concerns. I was building some Thousand Suns. If I was not playing orcs at the moment, I think I would be playing with T Suns and 4 or 5 demon princes. The demon princes guns are actually like really scary for orcs. Like you put dev wounds, ignore cover, AP1, 9 shots. Like you get +1 to wound, +1 to strength, and
Yeah.
all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, that kills an orc really easily.
Yeah, for sure.
I do think there's things to be cautious on that matchup, but
Yeah,
focus on the
demon
fact that
pamphlets are quite popular. I mean, I think what do Emperor's Children run them? World Eaters run them?
yep, everyone
Um,
runs them. They're very good. A lot of the meta people right now are really thinking and T Suns are not good, but I think long term we'll see that change because they shoot really hard. They have great abilities. They have psychic on all their weapons and dev wounds, and they are dirt cheap compared to everyone else's demon princes. They are dirt cheap, and that's not okay.
yeah. So I'm interested to see how they unpack with what they actually have as their book. I feel like it's kind of new for people to already putting them in the corner. Just because they take a little bit more development and everything. So we'll see. You orcs usually do have the pressure and the right profiles to kind of kill them efficiently. We might have to talk about how to just handle demon princes in a little bit though. But what about Emperor's Children? I hear a lot about how they're pretty much just run at you charge, not too much high as we spoke about with the World Eaters, not too great into super high toughness armies. But they do have the pressure, the staging.
Yep.
Interestingly, they want to run transports on us. So what's up with Emperor's Children?
So Emperor's Children are very similar in orcs in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
For tempo, they're just like a very elite version. Very fast. They got just great tempo, great staging. They can jail us in on like a small amount of models, and they can simplify the board state so fast. Like if they can trade with orcs extremely efficiently because typically they're gonna kill double their bodies worth.
Oof.
And right, like a unit noise ring gets out and it looks at 20 boys, it's going to do a lot of damage to 20 boys, right?
Yeah.
Each attachment's a little different, but then they're shooting you and they're mailing you.
Yeah.
So when they're getting both of those efficiencies out, they're doing good damage. The thing that you got to make sure with your orcs is you are making sure that, hey, look, what they are killing is almost reverse. Drilling, you want to protect your expensive units and with those in the game. But against Emperor Children, I actually have a reverse thing where I want to use the expensive units to do as much damage they do, use them as bait, let them run at them forward, and then you can overwhelm them with the fact that they're a very, very elite Marine army, and then all the rest of your units, they hurt you, but you also hurt them. a lot, right?
Yeah.
If you can outnumber them with the number of units after that initial clashing of the armies, because like they can handle power units really well. Like when like one of their mid-size, like a unit noise marine looks at like a power orc unit after like the front lines have clashed, that marine unit can probably just kill that main power orc unit, and that's a trade up for them. So like if I just use that as bait, make them overextend a little bit more, or like do something of a trade with them with a power unit in the early game to get them in a comfortable position to make them be more aggressive, and then I can overwhelm them with like a 2v1 unit count towards the like mid game to late game. That's kind of my thoughts for it right now.
Mm,
Unless I just get to go first and just really disrespect them with like,
yeah.
hey, look, like I got a good long line down here, with squid buggies, for all these matchups, but really taking advantage of the fact that like I'm just gonna stat check you as fast as possible and try to like simplify this game down the key things. Knowing that everything's dead, and what's important is I lose less units, not as many points. Units matter more than the actual points that the units are uh, pointed at.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense. Instead of being so worried about what did this cost, it's what do I actually have left to play the game. And as you were saying, Emperor's Children are still just, T4 Marine bodies, and
yep,
they still get overwhelmed by a 10-man unit of Snagas. Throwing in some flash hits that ran in, throw some
yep,
shots on them as well. They jump them, so I can understand what you're saying here. Let them maybe try to dog out a different unit, but then ultimately that what they use to kill it with can still be picked apart by unit of Snagas, and then Flash gets shoot and throw a grenade, and ultimately that unit still got picked up for
yep.
a very efficient cost. So that's an interesting take. And then we have, well, let's say this: out of those factions from Thousand Sons, Death Guard, World Eaters, what's the order? Maybe you would say that their power or strength is. I know we said people think Thousand Sons at the bottom. We'll just snug them in there just for now, but for
Yeah.
the last three.
So we haven't talked about Death Guard yet, but
Mm-hmm.
in ranking those four Chaos God factions, like right now, I put World Leaders at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
They're still very good and so forth. But it's in the line of Orc plays, but also I think compared to the other factions, um, like I don't like World Leaders in their first showdown at the moment, and I don't like them in the Death Guard. Granted, Thousand Sons are very good for World Leaders. There's a tempo thing somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
where like just lock them in melee, and Blood Surge from Berserkers are really awkward for Thousand Sons to deal with.
Yeah.
So with that all in mind, though, Death Guard is number one. I put T Suns at number two, Emperor Showtime free, and then World Leaders at four.
Oh,
If I had
okay.
to
That's a
choose
good
an overall meta,
good take.
yeah, I
Okay.
think they're all good. It's just a matter of like there's rock paper scissors among themselves almost. But
That's
the
fitting
big
for the Chaos Gods. That's fitting, though. I
yeah,
actually like that. I totally like that. I appreciate that. And I actually intentionally left Death Guard out for last because I actually want to cover Chaos Knights first, and then we can talk Death Guard because they're the big bad. And then from there,
yep,
we can transition into what you're actually doing. And I think
okay,
that goes well. So for Chaos Knights, how you feeling about them? I know a lot of us are happy. Sigh of relief among the Warhammer community of I'm tired of Team 10 being spammed everywhere. Let's bring that down. Even factions that we don't play, the World Eaters themselves, like we spoke about, love that they came down in toughness. I do think it's a bit healthier in that sake for the game. The extra wound came into play though, and I do find that more interesting considering we were one of those armies that used mortal wounds to chip
yep.
those guys down. So, well, how do you feel about the Chaos Knights? It seems like War Dog spam is still going to be here to stay for a bit, but what do you think about that?
So there's two major things that we could say is like T9 is crazy versus T10. Like we can blitz through T9 real fast. T10 requires a little bit more effort. Like tank buses are also when they pop pulse or rocket, like they're winning on twos. In the Waaagh, all your power claws are winning them on threes. Like a unit of knobs with power claws do just smack up some dogs.
Yeah.
Um, and then all our we have a lot of strength five in our army. When the
Mhm.
wall, all our base stuff is strength five. Things get stronger. You put some chill rigs in effect, or certain detachments, or certain type of units. Strength 5 also just winning. As soon as orcs win big stuff on 5s, like you just start hammering out there. You come out there with like a flipping crowbar and you start taking apart mechanized stuff at C9 with
Mhm.
orcs. So feel really good there. But the biggest change for that matchup is not the T9 thing for it. It's the fact that beforehand they were T10, so we kind of hit a wall a little bit where, yeah, we can kill a lot of them. Like I've killed 7 in one turn and just win games would be easy. Like I just keep going on there, right? Like the matchup was really dangerous. Um, because what happens if you didn't kill enough of them in the right order and like the right time when you open up and you start killing them, is you hit into a fact that like this army hits on 2s. Brigands, Gatling guns hits on 2s, or Melta guns hit on
Yep.
2s, Carnivores hits on 2s. All that's gone. They hit on 3s now. So once you start bracketing them, once you
Yes.
start applying, hitting on 2s, winning on free, or hitting on frees, winning on frees, you start putting them in melee. You start leaving, them alive that are stuck in melee with you. Like the Gatling guns are hitting you on 4s, Finn. And that
Yeah,
map just skews into your favor so far.
yeah,
Like
for
that's
sure.
just so good. And I think that's actually the biggest change for the matchup is
Mhm.
because like also now they like you could hit them and if you bounced they would just table you the next turn.
Yeah.
That's not
Mhm.
going to happen anymore. They lost 50% of their consistency in their hit
Yep.
rolls,
Mhm.
and that's pretty drastic. I think I have not played against Mass Dogs yet, but I have played against the big. There's some of the Chaos Knights that are being played that are like 5 bigs and a baby.
Mhm.
And do we hit those T11? We smack them up hard. Like those bigger knights, yeah, they got more wounds now. But like when we start hitting them with certain type of profiles, like you can kill big knights really fast. And I feel pretty confident into them as long as we don't get greedy, right? Like if they start bringing like free guys with like Gatling cannons and they pump out, that's like over
Hmm.
100, like over
Yeah.
100 shots. I want to say 36. It's like just shy of it. It's like it's no, it's 102 shots of the Gatling cans. If they start doing that, that's a problem because those guns are if there's 6 of them, they're 18 shots each, and they are 622. Oh
Oh,
boy.
perfect
Um,
anti-org weapon dang there. Mhm.
yeah, and like those guys could be a problem. Even if they don't, that's the extreme having 6 of the single Gatling gun in there. But if they just have 3 of them because they bring like 3 of them, they take like dual, melted cannon, Gatling gun. That would still be a real pain for us because the Melta's not bad to us because it's big Melta that's blast.
Mhm.
And the Gatling guns are just great suppressing fire. The thing is again with those is you need to set up in a position where like they can't pick at your angles. You're gonna say, hey, look, I'm gonna fight you as a concentrated group onto your concentrated group. I'm just gonna kill 2 knights, and we're gonna keep doing that for the rest of the game, right? And at
Mhm.
that point, they can't play the mission. Like you just take advantage of the fact that like you don't play mission, you have to move over here and fight my whole army, and then you're going to die. Um, and I think that one is fine. Like it's really violent. My particular army that I had is really good into it, but I think other orcs can still handle that relatively well.
I'll
Definitely when like beast bosses are back on the menu, because like beast bosses are good at all these matchups that we've talked about.
Yeah, for sure. I think though I do still think the T9 did matter a lot because of still kind of what you're saying as well is that we do have the potential to it's a lower bar to reach to actually punish them for disrespecting us. We are less likely to bounce if we do, but then still I do like that they bracketed like you said. They lose the OC, which I thought was a pretty cool twist for GW to add losing the OC thing on there. But then they can't really punish us in response as much, which is due to, in my opinion, the changes, the lack of their toughness, us being able to damage them more reliably with a bunch of different profiles. If we do run into that night, if we run low on assets because I got punished for I did lose something a little too early as anti night potential. There is a chance that I still diminish one of these knights enough because of its lower toughness value with an
Mm-hmm.
inferior kind of skirmish unit, like you kind of mentioned earlier, with jumping on them. So I do think the toughness in 9 does matter because now in my head, more smaller skirmishing, strength 5, T9 power claws, random rockets, random custom mega blasts, all these things have the potential to cause the bracketing that you mentioned that also causes us to survive that next attack. So I think I'm in agreement with you, but I think the toughness is a really, really big play for that because it allows all the opportunities you just mentioned. So then we move to the big bads, Death Guard. So I have a little bit of experience playing with them, own a Death Guard army, so it's mixed feelings about if I like how that is being played. It's cool to see drones, but they're quite cheap. How do you feel about Death Guard as an all? I don't think they're as abusive and worrying as old Mordaka, where everybody wanted us to be nerfed to dust because it was just hard to play at all. Still, you find success with Death Guard now, I think, against Death Guard. But where are you at with them?
So one of the big things that helps out a lot for the new Death Guard Codex for Orks in particular against them is they're not -1 weapon skill, -1 to hit. Orcs like melee armies having -2 to hit practically was a really hard thing for Orks, like melee Orks to go over. Like it was just a very volatile matchup where I'm like I can't do any damage. I have to pray back and just jail tempo them, screen, and get good secondaries, and they get bad secondaries. That's different now where like a war boss having +1 to hits to a squad is a lot more impactful, right? Like -1, +1, and they just counterbalance you just back to your natural numbers. But Death Shroud are everyone's bane of existence. Everyone's terrified. Like I don't know anyone that's I assume it's just broken. And I agree to a certain level. I've played Death Guard 3 times this past weekend. One time with before the balance slate, but with the new codex. And I haven't lost to him yet. But like that's because like I believe in my orc list having lots of screens for my backfield, my front field, and I can make sure that I can control these armies.
Yeah.
To a good degree, right? Because like if they just get to start putting the positions where they get to have it, but you try to fight them, you let them have like 50% of the board, you're going to be behind. What you need to do is make sure that army does not establish a bunch of board control and keep it. You can't let them do that. You do not worry about the Death Shroud. You kill first, prioritize everything else. You got to hold objectives and do secondaries.
For sure.
Bloat drones are good into our infantry. It is solid into a lot of our lighter vehicles, which again is another reason why I like thicker transports. I like my battle wagons. I like my Morkanauts.
Yep, we mentioned that earlier. How the high toughness is interesting, as we've mentioned a couple of these factions. The high toughness matters. World Eaters.
Yep.
Death Guard.
Death Guard.
Matters.
It does, and it also really matters in British Children too, because a lot of their stuff is strict 8 to 10. They can kill trucks really easy.
Really easily.
But they can't kill those over 2 chassis that are T12 really at all. Like they require way more effort than they want to put into it. But with that, we have a few things that I have found that I thought was going to be the case with, let's say, a more mid-range shooting aggressive work list. Is one, you can still play around the Cretaceous range and sit right outside of it and still be fully effective. Second, you can get a lot of units with pluses to hit. Okay, Mornaut and Skorkanauts, respective on their data sheets, get +1 to hit based on the Waaagh, melee or shooting on the respectable chassis. Then you can get mechs that can give +1 to hit those chassis. So now even through their -1 to hit, you're still getting +1 to hit because you have +2. And then the more DACA strat where you can just give a walker +1 to hit. Is really solid. Like I love that strat. But you're able to still operate. You got to figure out like those. These are just one particular thing, which leads to the latest my thoughts when I'm taking how I'm taking it. But there's one thing really for Death Guard is like I said, don't allow them to establish board. Screen out those Death Shroud. Those Death Shroud need to be deep striking into your opponent's home deployment zone.
Yeah.
You got to order it correctly, but they're going to be way back there. And so you need to kill poxwalkers fast. You need to take away any of their trash and bog them down. Take advantage of the fact that Death Guard, at the end of the day, have a little too much stuff, but they're still a relatively elite army. And they are still, for the most part, a slow army. The army does not just get to redeploy its army in the movement phase like Emperor's Children does, like World Eaters can. Like those, it is the slowest of all those factions. and you have to be able to be ready to punish on the fly different bad positioning plays that they've made. Things that will set them back in their tempo. When to Zogrod jail, when to use Zogrod and his Gretchen, soup them up, go kill 20 Freddy Poxwalkers that you can find. Or as many as you can, and just chip away at them, right? Like not killing Freddy right off the bat, but like locking them down in positioning and making it where, like, here's my deployment back edge. I got units here that are screening out death shot. I got mid-sized units that are getting ready to pressure, and I got frontline units that are pressuring now. And I got layers of sustainability of screens to keep my opponent from delivering death shrouds on midfield objectives on multiple at once and just dominate whole positions. And with that in mind, this is this is a very complicated, not easy game plan to do. You have to practice a little bit. You have to have a
Yeah,
vision
for
for it.
sure. I found
But
that,
we
like
have
you said,
plays.
you have
Go for it.
to keep the gas on them, even though you might think it's counterintuitive because you hear about the damage and you see their stat line. When you said
Yep.
they're kind of elite, they do get 7 characters heavy sometimes, which is
Mm-hmm.
kind of a bit too much sometimes for many lists. They start running out of assets. And for example, those same bloat drones that everybody's scared of, we don't get a good way to trade killing them necessarily, right? But they get, bad touch kind of easily where they don't shoot into combat because they're blast. They don't fight necessarily well to keep a unit off of them once they've tagged them. So, like you said, the board presence factor is the biggest factor when I played into them. Having stuff that's willing to go forward and continue to keep them into their back lines. Like that's why people have been looking at buggies and cult of speed and bikers, the Coptus change, just stuff like that. Yeah, I'm totally in agreement there where there's answers, and interestingly enough, usually the answer is the table state. Right? It's not what can I give you as advice to properly trade with all their drones. That's not the answer. How to shut down their drones' effectiveness and minimize their units, efficiency and scoring is what I found better, right? Don't go for all the big brick of castle drones surrounded by their demon prince. Go for the haulers on the outside, get rid of those marines, and push the terminators back. That's been more of the effective way to try to handle them. Because in that point, now they've lost tough points, ability to score secondaries, possibly falling behind on primary, and like you said, they don't have speed or assets to make up for it. So, interestingly, we do still have the snagga. I mean, snagga. I just read chat. We do have the answers here. So, chat's talking going hard right here. So, what's up, chat? This is live. We're just trying to get through topics real quick, but I'll hit the chat. If you guys got any big chat, super chat, remember you guys might have memberships because they're giving out. You might have a free one, so throw those in there so you can keep it hot and going. So, now as for you. Now the fun part that we've been holding back, right? Save the best for last. So what's cooking up in your head? I'll just show a little bit off the table. Mark Perry talks to me, gives me a little of his crazy rants, and I love it. And it was funny because on my own, I was pondering indirect buggies, but I wouldn't have the right number, and I wasn't sold on the investment. And he was like, dude, just go all in on it. It has some play. And I'll
Yep.
say it sounded outrageous, but I did it. And after several games, it was even right after I was like, man, I don't know if I like that. But as I reviewed the games in my head and with my opponents, I was like, that was kind of cool. So 3 buggies, baby Max, you did that. But unpack that more DACA stacking +1 to hit thing that you've been doing, because that's been a fun to hear.
All right. So I am currently right now at triple Rocket Truck 2 buddies. I have a GT tomorrow. To give an
Ooh.
idea with this period, I'm currently 5-0 with it. At a practice weekend at my house. I got 5 games in one day with my team practice. I don't get a lot of practice in this one. A few times where I got a lot of practice at once, so I felt really good that I'm like, here's the rough draft list. I played the same list 5 times, and that was really felt really good. Like, like I'm like, do I have any changes? I really want a DACA Jets. DACA Jets did not happen today. In the future, maybe. But I'm trying to sit there and say. So the core of the list of Mordaka is, let's start off the backfield units. Is free rocket truck free buggies, free mechs. Okay, the mechs kind of support the squid buggies, but they also can jump and affect the units that are in the midfield too, like Death Dreads, which is the next part. Triple Death Dreads with custom Mega Blasta. Okay,
Yeah.
and one claw. Those units are insanely awesome. I love them in more DACA because the assault's super relevant on them. and I don't fail hazardous on ones and twos, just ones. I've lost that guy in more or in Dread Mob more times than I want to, and maybe not want to experiment with it
Hey,
every once.
that's why
But
I
like
call him the nuke,
hazardous,
baby. That's why he's the
yeah.
nuke. He's taking you and him out with him, dude. That was his nickname in Dreadmouth back before we got more DACA. But yeah, he totally does that.
Yep, he absolutely does, and it's sometimes terrifying. Like I have lost one that was full health to free triple ones, but I
Yeah.
haven't like took anything that was like drastic. And a lot of times, what happens, I roll that one on there. The next turn, they're getting a +1 hit from the mech and healing them, so all is fine in the world.
Yeah.
Um, so triple of them, triple Ludas with custom Mega Blaster character and our custom Mega Blaster Spana, and then adding a regular big mech with Power Claw and custom Mega Blast in there. The reason
Yep.
why is when you have 6 custom Mega Blaster shots that are getting the Luda rerolls, that's a real juice of the units. He also gives them reroll advance, and reroll advance in or in Mordak is crazy because when you're while that unit's advance shooting and charging with reroll. And it can pseudo kind of move over enemy models. It gets really far move, which is cool, but not always the case. But like sometimes screens like real like I'm gonna pockmarker J, and I'm like not quite. I can just run past that.
Yeah. It's been a play. It's been a factor. So on this unit, I don't want you to jump right through it because I've mentioned this unit in videos, and I've actually run the Big Mac, at least a dozen times or more in a serious manner. And he totally does have play, and he has potential to run through these screens. I mean, unpack that unit more because a lot of people kind of scoff or laugh at that. Even me and you, we were talking messaging, right? I was like, Luda's, dude, what? Luda's like they're dorky. What do you mean, man? They don't even shoot right.
Yep.
No, unpack that a little bit because as we pull the numbers out, that combo has play even in tactical brigades to a certain degree. It's funny. So what do you think about it?
So absolutely, Tactical Brigade has play. That's originally where I play with it, and it just is better in here. It
Mm-hmm.
has similar plays in Dread Mob. I see
Dead
it
mob.
has play in most attachments if you want a solid unit for what it does. Like I can even play it in Warhorde, to be honest. Simply because that guy still slaps, and at the end of the day, it works. It's still gonna hit you in melee. But the custom Mega Blasters are the secret sauce of that unit. When you have 6 shots in this unit, its job is to target stuff that's on objectives. That 6 shots, full reroll hits. You should get 2 hits on average. If you're in the wall, you're gonna have 1/6. You're gonna get reroll the other 4. You have a 50% chance of getting another 6 roughly, and you're gonna probably get another 1 or 2 hits. You're either gonna get a You're already looking at 3 hits with a reroll possibly going to 4 or 5 hits. If you roll another 6 or another 5 on your 4 over dice, and that's hitting on 6s or hitting on 5s and 6s. Like out of 6 shots, getting 4 to 5 hits is crazy when you're 9-2d6.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when you combine 3 of those units together, you're talking. Let's say in this case, we'll round 1 up and round the other 2 down. Okay, to give ourselves a benefit of the doubt. Nerve ourselves a little bit because that's the best way to prove something works, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking that's 13 custom Mega Blaster hits from 18 shots. That's a lot of damage to be thrown on something on an objective, right? If you're talking about a great unclean one, that should be 13 or 5 to 4 wounds. We round down 2 of them this time, so this time we'll round it to 5. Right? You give some, you take some. So 5, you failed 2 of them. This time we round it down. Should be 7 to 8 damage going through on the higher end since we round down last time. This time we round up. And that's 8 damage on a Great Unclean one from just them, but not counting the other guns. That's pretty good on a 20 wound model so far, from not even counting the other 36 shots that we have coming in that have sustains and just going on the random stuff. And that's one of the toughest individual models in the game. Okay. That's not counting the fact that, hey, look, I also now then have 3 Death Dreads that are coming in with we have 18 custom Mega Blaster shots. We have 3 Death Dreads. That's more than likely in this scenario hitting on 4s. Because you can get all the Dreadnoughts in this army hitting on 4s at the same time for shooting. So you have 18 custom Mega Blaster shots on there, 27 coming from the Death Dreads. All of this has sustain in the wall. You have 2 Morkanauts, which each have a custom Mega Blaster. So that goes from 27, 33, 41, 51 custom Mega Blaster shots so far. Okay. Not counting the custom Mega Zappa on the Morkanaut, that's just a straight 9. It's like a Vindicator version. Not counting him yet. And then I have 2 Burner Boy squads on the side. So it is 57 shots at custom Mega Blaster. The Mega Blaster, when you have that high volume of shots, is pretty crazy when it all gangs up on the same units. And great into this currently Death Guard 4-wound Death Shroud units that just kind of sit in the open. You're just going to have to volume them out with the highest quality damage shots of casinos that you've ever rolled in your life. Okay, now 18 of those shots are rerolling hits, more than likely. It's looking on an objective. Then you have 27, 33 of the shots hitting on 4s, because you could take the mechs, give the Death Dreads +1 to hit. The Morkanauts get +1 to hit. Inherently, while on the wall, all that 33 shots are hitting on 4s with sustain. Okay. It's practically like hitting on 3s with sustain is a good way to look at that math. Okay. Then you have the Zappas. And that stuff can shoot the stuff that's off that on the objective if opponents go forward. But like you can see the extremes that I'm trying to do with these numbers.
Yeah.
Where like I rolled it out 4 times and I plugged the math in a little bit. I do kill 2 great unclean ones in a single turn, with those being some of the toughest individual models in the game. Because they have a 4-up invuln, they're 20 wounds, they got a 6-up feel no pain, they're T13, and you just whack them. And even with minuses to hit, the army can get around it. And a simplified, like when a Morkanaut gets in a close range to Death Guard units. Okay, you have stealth, because, say, Typhus's unit. You have -1 to hit because of your Death Guard. Okay. And then you have, maybe, well, you can't be melee with the custom Mega Zappa, but we won't count that one. Let's just say those 2 -1s to hit at the moment. Okay. The Morkanaut can get +1 hit in the wall for his shooting attacks. He gets +1 hit from the mech, and you pop the strat for another +1 to hit. Therefore, he's still hitting those units on 4s. When Orks are hitting you on 4s, it's a different life for everyone else on the receiving end.
Yep.
With their shooting. And that's always been a break point for when Orc shooting is considered low-key kind of broken. We saw it with Tank Busters. We saw it with Freebooters way back in the day in 9th edition.
Buggy.
Yeah, Buggy's like, the break point was always 4. As soon as Orc shooting hits you 50% of the time, that's when it becomes a problem. And that was also similar thing with Mordaka. It was like hitting you 50% of the time because sustain 2, 1/6 equals like a 4. Like it's 3 shots. Like, holy crap. With a higher ceiling of potential. Where I'm like, I just rolled like 4 6s. Oh, let's go.
And your list, obviously, this all has the possibility to be getting off on sustain if it's the Waaagh. So all those 57 custom Mega Blaster shots, maybe they don't all go off on the Waaagh, but even if 70% of those are going off with sustain capability, that starts getting crazy. Crazy. You have access to ignore cover. You have access to additional AP, which are 2 things that Dread Mob lacks that I found to be the difference when you do focus in on a target. So it's not exclusive to the Greater Unclean one in this 4-up, because some people are probably thinking, well, I go into armor. Do you have ways to offset some of the armor and some of their greater targets? So I really much appreciate that too. And it does find interest. Those Luda bricks with the Big Mac, I find them to be more versatile than initially thought. So when you have the shock attack gun with the 10 Ludas, kind of a stationary unit, best you're going to do is a truck, move up, drop them, or come in from reserves. What is cool about the Luda with the Big Mac is if you're playing against a KG player and they understand either A, they're going to abuse lone op, so you can't really reach their Demon Prince, for example, who's on maybe layout 1, barely touching the objective, really hard to get a good angle with enough units. 1, he's fast enough to get line of sight to that guy, close the distance on that guy, and actually look at the objective with that kind of unit. But if it's a KG player and they know the Luda bricks are only efficient when you're on an objective, well, they're not going to put their expensive units on those objective once in a while till later in the game, some of these armies. Then you're kind of waiting around for the Ludas. And I've seen that a lot with people who pick up Dread Mob and we're waiting around. This 5-man Luda brick, though, it's fast enough and can get off different turns. And if someone leaves a respectable unit on their objectives in no man's land, the Luda brick with that big mech can clean them up in a nice good skirmish. And that's what I've actually found to play, where other orc units, you're like, how am I actually digging out that unit? Anything that can get over there is a bad trade. Too many points to actually get up on the field. I'm losing too many assets to dig out that unit that's just holding primary, but it's quite easy to kill. Well, the Luda unit with the big mech, fast enough to get over there, move through the screens, shoot them, and then possibly even charge them. So I actually do think that it gets overlooked, and it's one of those tools that just get it on the table, maybe just run one to see what you can do with it, and then unfold it, right? Jumping out of your big mech, your Titanic walkers and such. So I thought it was cool. So I've been adding one more into my list to play it out, and it does have more play than I initially gave it credit for. For what's it, 120 points now, that unit?
120 points. It's super cheap. You look at the 4 Def Gun guys, that they do damage, great, but otherwise they have like 4 extra wounds for the real juicy stuff. That is the Spanner and the Big Mech.
Yeah,
and the Big Mech slaps. He's still a pseudo, not war boss, but close enough. Like he's a souped up knob. And you put random Marines into him, like advance, shoot, and charge you. I'll hit you, and then I'm gonna kill some Marine bodies in melee too. Or like you said, the bloat drones earlier, awkward for us to kill sometimes. You put the looters up there and running out of depth. You shoot a bloat drone because of mega shots, and then you charge it. You're most likely killing it.
Yeah. And that stupid thing, probably can't even get you off it. They can't punch you off it either, and it can't shoot. So it does have merit. I like that unit. I'm glad you brought it out. And what I'm really excited for is the fact that your list primarily Walker heavy, which has been lacking the entire edition, in my opinion. There is some play in Dread Mob for them, but I think this is the most Walker play that I've seen and that I've actually enjoyed. The double Titanic Walkers does actually, interestingly enough, play into the new enemies that we're looking at as we've gone through this video, right? And we're ending it off with you saying I'm taking double of those guys. Guys are taking battle wagons left and right because trucks went up. So even more reason when one of you guys are out there thinking, well, do I bring 5 trucks now or do I throw a wagon on there? Well, now you know a reason why we think you should take a wagon, because what we're going to see a lot of don't necessarily love trying to pop a wagon or Titanic units either.
Yep. That 20 wound count on a Morkanaut is a huge breaking point for a lot of factions. You're like, yeah, I can probably do 12 really consistently, but doing higher than that, it's awkward. Like I had one of my Morkanauts in one of the games where he just went through and killed 9 Death Shroud. Okay. And he'll how did he do that? I'm like, well, dude, I popped +1 to hit from a mech, +1 to hit from the walker. All of a sudden he has +2 to hit. I go in the combat -1. I'm still hitting on 2s. I got 6 damage. Just take a bunch of 4-ups. I'm gonna shoot you too.
And what I like about that combo too is as you are losing, wounds and you get bracketed with that big guy, you're still +2 to hit. You can still offset it, keep hitting on 4s, boy. That's super annoying. If instead of, I'm hitting on 6s now, that's a vast, extreme difference that you can overcome in Mordaka that gets overlooked consistently. So I do like it. So it's not even just to negate, the enemies giving you -1. It might be just that you're losing momentum because you're slowly losing wounds, and you can offset that with it as well. So I'm excited. And I think that it's interesting that Strength 9 has become, and Strength 5, Strength 6 are becoming better breakpoints, because that is a better breakpoint where Orc live for the most part. And then anything higher than that, like you said, we have other answers, whether it's based off pure volume or something like a good old-fashioned Beast Boss. Good old-fashioned Gaz, for example. And so can you want to talk about those buggies a little bit more? Because I know we mentioned it, but I know someone out there going to be super skeptical and think that you're just a crazy git and that I'm just a crazy git for liking it too.
So the theory for it, so that was the idea, that rest of that list that we just talked about, that fights on that mid-range front line. I also have Zogrod in that unit and 2 Burn Boy squads to finish up the list. I don't think I said that. I want to make sure. Zogrod and Burner Boys are their starters. And also sometimes defensive things. Zograd's unit's great for screen out Death Guard. Remember that. When you feel the Death Shroud's about to come next turn, that's when you string out that aggression squad all the way out and you go forward. And
then just hide the Zod from that Demon Prince, and they're gonna have a hard time digging that unit out. As long as you don't let them precision out Zod, they'll have a hard time digging that guy out, dude. All these armies, if you force them to fight Zod or Bricks of Grots, they're not happy about that for the most part. They'd rather be trying to charge up on an expensive unit, not punching through screens of Grots and such. So definitely 100% favor that. We love Zod around here, but we're still gonna push him. So, oh well.
So, Soviet buggies, why they're important
Yeah.
is orcs have a backfield problem. We do not have units that typically go in the backfield, screen it, protect it from all variations of different units, while also doing other things, while doing actions, screening, shooting, and you can say jank with like keeping random units off the board. With
Yeah.
free squeeze buggies and free max kind of pseudo in front of them, you have 6 units in your backfield that denies mark for death right off the bat. Um, you in games, denies, bring it down. I granted most of my board states as they develop late in the game. The squiggly are on objectives; they are far forward. Um, but you also have units that can hold your home objective that are not just Grecian, that sometimes just die to the random stuff, or 5 Marines that did punch through and find a way back there. Squid buggies can hold their own, right? Typically, it's on Crucible, Hammer and Anvil, and Tipping Point. It's Squid buggy in that shorter corner way up here, 2 squid close to the home objective with the mechs. And the mechs are, since they trigger in the movement phase, they can run forward, give their buffs to the walkers, or they stay back and give their buffs to the squid buggies. Okay, so the thing is, the math sounds crazy. Like they don't sound good, but with max with plus 1 to hit against all these infantry armies that are in the game, we just talked about 4 chaos space marine variation or 4 chaos god codexes. You got all the Emperor's Children, or tormentors, and infractors. You have berserkers, jackals, goremongers, um, coming from world leaders. You have in Thousand Suns all the Rubikai. There's Xanagor. There's Xanagor, one of the most important things. That's their Epi Downey
Yep.
unit.
I was gonna mention that earlier.
Yep. You have all those units, and then in Death Guard, Poxwalkers are most important. You can actually still put down some damage on Plague Marines. Not as much because the T6 does protect them, but you can hurt them in a scenario where you really need to hurt, like you need to focus them down. You can still chip wounds off if
Absolutely.
it's really coming down to clutch. But they're really good at killing Poxwalkers because Poxwalker, you ignore and cover, so Poxwalker don't get a save, and you're 2 damage. So the Poxwalker guy make double 6 up in the veins. And those are all super important for the mission play for those armies. The other armies that really is relevant right now is Blood Angels. Blood Angels, MSU, to just lots of jump infantry sitting behind walls. Sweet buggies hit on 5s, D6 plus 6 blast. If they're releasing blast 1, they're on average, it's talking about a solid like 33, 32 shots, 32 hits. Okay, I would say we just round out the 33 for the simplicity math. 1/3 of that is 11 hits. For wounds, that's you're talking 7, 8, probably 7 because we rounded up last time. We rounded down this time, so 7 go through. That kills 4 because we round up this time because we rounded down last time. That's 4 with a very good chance of just killing 5 Marine bodies behind a wall. That's people holding their home objective, screening, melee dudes, and you're like, that's really relevant against Marines. Eldar, it's even better because they have way weaker saves, which was super good in Yunari. Made Eldar players cry. It was hilarious.
You mentioned the goremongers, right? You said 7, 7, 8. That's picking up 1 unit of goremongers when you shoot those 3
and you're
dudes.
You're getting more shots because they're 8-man. So there we go. Okay, yeah. True.
I'm saying you pick up based off the math you just said. That's the whole unit. They have I believe, a 6-up save. You ignore cover, -1, boom, straight through. Like you said, the Poxwalkers, making it so those Poxwalker units are nice and inefficient or completely gone. Huge factor. That's their contagion. That's their mid-table presence. Just like the Goremongers, they have their reactive move, like you just said. The Zangors act as their only screen or bulwark for the Thousand Suns. So if you start making that cheaper and weaker, that's a big factor. And that's what I felt like it was with your indirect buggies. As you've told to me, make sure you're not too worried about letting them be exposed to actually get line of sight. So you're hitting on 4s then with that same firepower. And like you mentioned, you can get them involved in the game. They only really have to be backline for maybe 2 turns. and then maybe 3, and then boom, they can start up throwing mortal wounds on the table, throwing OC on the table, tagging units. I actually, think that's a really thing that gets undersold. So if you're not sure about those buggies, I get it, but give them a try. I think there's a bunch of buggies that actually have play. And then what do you think about their how much merit is their actual debuff, right? The getting clogged up in the squigs on the 4+.
That ability is super good. It's not consistent when it really matters. When you look at a situation like all 3 of them are hitting 1 unit, like Plague Brains, it's super good against Plague Brains because, like, yeah, you're not killing no weird as many as ever wounds or ever marine tile bodies, but Plague Brains also -2 to their advance, move, and charge. Really hurts. Emperor Children units -2 to their advance, move, and charge. Crazy. Then Blood Angels, similar things. Like you are slowing down key important units more often than not.
Yeah, World Eaters are fast, but they're banking on their reliability. So as soon as you start messing with that and you tell them I can make you start slowing down, bro, they're like, wait a second, okay, I have to be like roughly 4 inches closer than I thought to really get this reliably off. But that means I'm way more likely to lose my very soft assets. So I thought that was actually a big thing, and I think that's pretty cool. And I'm second guessing you.
Never seen that's really important to think about them. All this was 1 turn of Geology. That units and how those units operate, you need to think about them across 5 turns of Warhammer, not just 1. You've heard me preach this on your show before. Think about the game of Warhammer sometimes for 5 turns. Even though you're an orc and you're probably only playing like 2 to 3 turns, you gotta think in context of 5 still.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of infantry across 5 turns with that engine. That's paying their points back against most marine bodies.
That's their long-term scoring. That's as you spoke about earlier. Sometimes that's their bait unit. Sometimes they need you to go kill their unit so they can come get you. They can sticky. They can do all types of funny stuff. You start just blowing away their scoring assets. Just like if someone did that to us, that would throw the game away for us at the late game for us to actually claw back. So it's across the whole, the whole game. And yeah, I've had turns where I straight up whiff with them, but I've also have turns where they pick up a unit and a half. Math averages out across the whole game, guys. Averages aren't about that 1 turn that you rolled them. It's about across 5 games when you rolled them. So yeah, I think that I doubted you at first when I said it. I said, I've been thinking about them, but I don't know about that many, right? That's a lot of commission. And you're like, I know, but it has play. And I'm like, yeah. I kept falling in that issue with Dreadmob, where I felt like I really enjoyed having those guys on my side of the table, and it was a cool play. So I think you're listing all the high toughness, the speed factor, the not relying on trucks anymore, and thinking about other high toughness transports, because people overlook the big mechs can go inside those walkers you spoke about. So now you're shooting out these little units that are huffing through the screen and then running up and shooting at their backline objective. Like, this all works really nice in conjunction. Not falling back on a shock attack gun, but still having a big mech. Again, great thing. And I think orc players can kind of learn from this as a conversation as a whole. Is of course you're as proven world-class player, and we know that in the context of when we're looking at all these ideas. But I'm not world-class, and I still enjoy a lot of these ideas and can get them to function and to actually have application in the game. And I think a lot of other good players, sometimes that's all we're lacking, right? We just need a little bit of encouragement or a little bit of squig juice to get us flowing in the right direction in our thoughts. So I'm pretty excited about this. And I'm also excited about our boy Ecot for 5 wall tactic memberships. Whoa, let's get some Death Dreads in chat for this because we've actually had Death Dreads finally spoke of in a loving way. You guys know I want Death Dreads to have their way in the game. Well, it seems like Mark Perry has found their place in the game. That's freaking hilarious, and I love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. Still think they need to come down to points, all right? Even though you found a way to play them. But thank you, Ecot, very much. There's some Death Dreads in chat for this. Been supporting since the channel was like 500 members or subs. So huge deal right there. Thank you, Git. Generous as always. Oh, and here's a fun one because I was going to bring up the next thing. Any tips for the big hunt? I actually been messing with big hunt too, but since you brought it up first, what do you got? Smeckledork? Is that your name? Smeckledork? That's a good name. So $10 for Smeckledork for that super generous big question. Whoa, for the $10. Yeah. So you go first, and then I'll go with what my theory has been now that I've gotten more new, refreshing plays.
All right. So we didn't get to touch on my big hunt theories right now. One,
no, that's what I'm saying.
Great stratagems. Yeah. So this is perfect. This is a great reminder because I completely left my mind.
Yeah, me too.
The uppy downy strat, bananas. We know how good it is on Storm Boys, but being able to rapid ingress 4 turns of Beast Snagger Boys, that's money. That's big money. And kill rigs. Kill rigs, you can uppy downy the kill rig. I'm playing with 60 Beast Snagger Boys at the moment, 3 Beast Bosses, 2 kill rigs, Zogrod's unit, and here's the secret sauce. The idea is that the uppy downy strat is only as good as you can deliver it, right? People got screens, and right now screens are really soft. Squig Buggies break those screens. We have free Squig Buggies, free max. But to also go with that to break those screens right now, is people don't have ways to screen out, stopping towering on aircraft from just wrecking your day. So we have 2 DACA jets, free Squig Buggies, and free max to break those screens. Therefore, Beast Snagger Boys can consistently be rapid ingress in the back to make it hard for your opponent to screen. Definitely for a lot of these lists right now that are pseudo elite with chaos factions, Marines not having a lot of backfield screening bodies that can just tank these shots, Eldar not having their Eldar bodies. Their super shooter looks at them across the board and they're gone.
No staying power.
Yeah, like a Dakajet looks at Eldar, they cry. Dakajet looks at Zangor, they kind of cry too. But you have all this extra engine, therefore, they're working in synergy with it. No Squig Hog Boys at the moment. I just think they're still way too expensive. GW is really overvaluing. I see that 5 film pain at T7. It's okay. It ain't that good. It ain't 150. As soon as I get down to 30 points a model, where it's 120 for the brick per 30 points per model, or even 25, that would be a lot better. But rest in peace until they get a data sheet up.
Hey, dude, we're paying for that bomb squig that I mentioned. I told you we're paying for it. Yeah, we are, dude. That's what the points are, dude. Just change it to advanced GW if you're scary about giving us proper point cuts, right? Give us AP and then make the squig bomb advance, and then fine, leave us at 140, 150. But we need AP. And honestly, we need +1 to hit. I don't know what those beast bosses. I don't know what the characters' abilities are. I know what they are, but I'm saying they're terrible. I don't know who thought those were good abilities to give them, but hey, they can get looked at.
The guy who writ their rules forgot that they're now going to be leaders and not individual monsters, and oh well.
All right. Sure. This is good enough. Good enough. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. So yeah, I'm with you on that. Now it's funny. Is that what the hunt is? Where you at with the hunt?
That's where I'm at the big hunt because I'm taking advantage of Uppy Downy. The advance and charge is awesome on that unit, on those units where you get rapid ingress and farther back, bringing a kill rig, bringing Beast Snagger Boys, the free damage Warboss, crazy. The sustained demon or the sustained strat, awesome.
Proper kill.
We talked about demons, how we deal with demon princes earlier. 10 Beast Snagger Boys in this detachment will handle most demon princes in the game. And you got 6 of them. But you have a lot of different ways of sustainability. You can constantly pressure everywhere on the board, right? You're like, I'm not over there, but like I'm breaking your screens. Where like, okay, well, how do you handle the big units? You're the big hunt. You call that unit out, you get +1 AP, you slam all these guys into it. Big Terminator brick, Beast Snagger Boys at at AP2 with beast bosses that are free damage with that one and the other ones, and also you got Squig Buggies to slow them down. There's a lot to be advantage to gain here.
There is.
With that in mind, like it's just all theoretical. I've gotten 2 games on it, and I only had, I want to say 5 Beast Snagger Boys in that one. I'm like, I need the 6th unit.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what else was the extra thing I had. Like I played with Waagh's Boom Blast the Jets over the first time, and I'm like, these are not bad. The one turn they just really missed, and I found that the super shooter was just doing the most damage for breaking screens. I'm like, I'll just take the super shooters from the DACA jets, and they're way cheaper. And because I also didn't make a single 4-up invuln on any of the Waagh's Boom Blast the Jets, and that made me really sad. Because they just got like shot, and I'm like, okay, take like 2 last scans, 2 4-ups, fail it. I just rolled 12 damage. I'm like,
you're like, I finally got to save. Oh, failed. No, you don't.
Yep.
So it's funny that so I'm a bit more simple of an orc player, right? Not gonna look for too much super keen plays. Even though I do like the squig buggies, I didn't, like I said, for other detachments, I didn't put them in my dread mob. Or sorry, my hunt list, as I kind of went full theme. But I think that's a bit of my preference, but also what I know people like to see too. So I kind of try to reflect that. I did throw a squig brick in there, but I'm, like you said, they're not worth it for their points, but kind of that field presence. Now, how big that brick will be and who's leading it is still under debate. But I do have a Squig Boss with Glory Hog and a big brick on it. But that's because I do have Zod as well. I am trying to bully presence in the game, and then aside that, multiple bricks of Snagas is kind of where I'm at. So it went from, like you were saying, with 10 mans. I thought that was cool. Felt good for trading, skirmishing, fighting, punching up, stuff like that. The 20 bricks felt really good for the fact that I can advance, shoot, and charge. I mean, advance and charge, or fall back and charge with those bricks. And now that I have Zod, I have Glory Hogs, I have 20 bricks of Snagas, it makes it so the enemies just kind of like, well, I can't really stop or kill all of these necessarily without you being able to continue to steal primary and move up the field on me. And if not, simply just pick up one of those 20-man units, which is what Glory Hogs has kind of been in the way for, right? Yep. Glory Hog makes its way up, establishes its presence with the commandos. The enemy kind of tries to respond to that. You throw the Snaggers 20 up with them, the other 20 Snaggers up with them, and you get a nice good waff with Zod. Zod's my, if I can't kill you, I'm going to bog you down unit while everything else kills you. And then, like we said, if the Snaggers, because there's only one to hunt target, right? This is my issue when I'm running a bunch of 6-man units outside of Whartons and it's not War Hordes. Well, everybody else felt kind of lackluster. So I needed the saturation of bodies so I can survive, so that I can eventually use the hunt target and the strats for fallback and charge. So all in all, I really felt good about just bricks on it, but I am someone who started with Tide, like it is my style, as my archetype when I started Orc. So I'm always going to have a preference for big bricks. But it felt really good to take advantage of picking up 20 dudes or being able to fall back and charge with these 20 dudes and keep moving forward and picking what I wanted to attack with this somewhat diminished unit now, and with this new prey, factor. I can fall back and then choose a new prey with my diminished unit. Felt really fun, really good. So I think both those theories are good, and I think the hunt has play just because the mission and our opponents were going into. So fun question. I'm glad we unpacked that, because I did want to talk about the hunt. So very cool, very cool. Very good chats and conversations with what we're going with today. Now, I'm trying to think. Was there something else we were trying to cover that I forgot?
We had a couple super chats I remember that we saved.
Oh, yes, it was. Thank you. Oh, my God. How can I forget my get? This is my get right here. We have Jank Tank. So this is actually a channel mod in the Discord, and he was on stream on Wednesday. We were talking about Crusade, Mark Perry. So he has a question for you for the end of stream. He said, what are Mark's thoughts on Crusade, and why is it the best way to play 40K? Also, great talk so far. Glad to hear some live high-level technical insight from tonight's convo. Whoa! He didn't say wow, but he meant it in his heart. So what do you think? And $20 is a huge, very generous. Thank you very much, Jank. Whoa, thank you for being a guest. He drove like an hour and 20 minutes after the stream that night to get home. But he's a local. I love that guy. He's super helpful in the Discord. So I was humbled that he wanted to be on, and thank you very much. But what do you think about Crusade? He had some fun things to say about that. What do you know, or what do you think?
I have read Crusade rules. I have never played them.
Yeah.
The reason why I do think, though, that they have, like, when you get to a level where you just enjoy 40K at a high level with everyone just, like, chilling out and we're not worried about competitions, we're playing, like, challenge mode, that's kind of where it could be really fun. Because I think, like, all the extra random rules where you can, like, build up your characters for certain people because you hit these reward marks or whatever. I think when you have, like, some really good friends that you are equal level where you can play with, I think those are some of the best ways to play it, because, like, it's not being super fine tuned, and there's sentimental reasons to be gained there.
Yeah.
I really miss having, like, being able to play with, like, a local group and sit there and say, oh, hey, look, like, we know what this one dude has been doing for like 6 months of games inside the club, right? And, like, you can make just custom models, give them trophies, give them kill marks. Like, at the end of the day, like, glory kills are awesome be able to claim for certain models that just get them right.
Oh yeah. One of my friends that I play often, he's a Space Marine player, and I've given him bits, and he's giving me bits of our each other's armies for that factor. And I feel like Crusade would only perpetuate more of that, where you guys are taking trophies from each other, and
Yep.
it becomes like a camaraderie, not only for you and your models, but the people you're playing with. Because you're like,
Yep.
I hate that Zodrock. No, I hate that War Boss. I know what he does. I remember when he killed my favorite character. So
Yep.
the moments and the environment, I think, are what make it great
It's
too.
like
And
it's like this feels a little weird to say, but like one of the reasons I love getting trophies from events is not so much that it's like a trophy is away, but it's like a time capsule. I can look back at that and I can remember how did I get this, all the journey of prep to all the opponents that I played, all of like the work that it is. Like it's a physical thing that you like time capsule where you can just have all these memories put away that you can just enjoy looking at and thinking about. Like that was a really great time. Crusade allows your models, I think, to be more on that level because you're a little bit more focused on some of the models. Actually, you're enjoying like a good game of 40k and getting extra reward for that, and your friends sharing that model's history is really cool.
exactly, people know who he is and what he is, right? That same
Yep.
guy who I play with, shout out to Frank's with Space Marines, he knows who Zod is, and when he goes into other orc players, he's like, "I'm glad they don't bring Zod, bro. I freaking hate that guy." And that feels good because we have an inside joke and bonding for over this one model and these
Yep.
games, which is what Crusade seems to bring, and that's why I think it's awesome. So shout out to Jank. That was a great question, and for all the moments, was the real reason. The community is why we play 40k. Let's never forget that. And another question he says is, what is Mark's favorite faction to play against?
Oh,
That's a
that's a
loaded
good
question almost, right?
question.
Because it's like, I don't know, dude. I like watching Tau squirm, but I don't know if they're my favorite. Then I don't know if they're my favorite to play. It's an interesting question.
Yeah, I think still overall I enjoy playing Marines, Loyalist Marines, because I enjoy the type of games like 40k is designed around them to a certain degree.
Yeah.
It's the number one feeling thing, but also like I get to enjoy kind of being like the heel almost. I play Chaos and Orcs like
Yes.
and
Yes.
Eldar every once in a while, and I get to be the bad guy. I'm beating up on the loyalist. Like this is pretty cool. And they don't um you can focus on more positional in those games, like versus like in technical games. Versus like sometimes like Eldar, like you got to worry about being a technical game on top of being a really like, oh, I made a like micro mistake. You got to micromanages all of your little stuff, otherwise Eldar can go through you, or certain other
Yeah.
armies can just go through you. So like I think like I enjoy the most playing against most time just loyalist Marines because like they're just a bunch of good gets. Another one is like guard, and that's a weird one because guard shoots you off to death, but like um guard is a lot of positional and tempo play, and like good guard players make the game really challenging because like they know how to screen. They ask you, "Hey, look, if you can't deal with 10 guardsmen, like you're doing something wrong," and you got to be able to think about the next level because it's very old fashioned wargamerish. Like
Yes.
there's a grind to it, and I enjoy that grind.
I feel like it's relatable as an orc. And I think that's why
Yep.
I think we're like two sides of the same coin. That's what I told Morty and Glory when we spoke. Shout out to that guy. I love that guy. Felt like we're two sides, like long faction history, a lot of models, deep book, kind of
Yep.
overlooked. But then when we get strong, everybody's quick to be like, hold on. Those guys aren't they're supposed to be
Nerfed.
the underdog. Those guys aren't supposed to be up here with us. And even though you didn't ask me the question, Jenk, I'll say my favorite faction to beat up is undoubtedly Necrons. There's nothing better, and it's funny because in the Necron Codex, I believe 8th edition or 9th edition, it says how Necrons hate fighting orcs as well,
Yep.
because of our chaotic nature and our unlogical way to approach combat. So
Yep.
I like to fight them. I think good old fashioned Xeno on Xeno. We're the biggest, baddest Xeno gets against the Imperium. We're the true big bads of them. The Necrons are too fancy. You know what I mean? And so that's my take.
Yep.
But yeah, even though no one asked me, I don't care. But what someone did say is $5 to our boy For make the stomp of 600 points, GW. Whoa, yeah, dude, 600 points. That's never happening. What's up with that picture, bro? I love that picture. You see, it's a big head in a black hole. That's hilarious in the galaxy.
Kind of
But
see
shout
it.
out to
It's on
you.
my phone screen, so it's tiny, but it looks cool.
It's freaking hilarious. What do you think? Stomp of 600 points?
Dude, like if we can just get like a stomp at 600 or just rate it for rules with that in mind. Like that thing's not that big no more. It's got pretty size. It's got kind of power creeped and size creeped. It ain't that much and it ain't that heavy. It's pretty shallow.
Yeah,
Or hollow.
it's
Um,
yeah, it used to be 40 wounds when I started at 40k. So they
yeah.
took the wounds away. They made everybody better at killing it, but he's still the same cost.
Yep. Man, like just design it where it could be more friendly on, more playable. Like make it like 30, 35 wounds. Make it on there. I don't know. I just GW doesn't know what they're doing. With the Stompos kit. I think that kid's like I don't know. That kid's been in the game longer than I have.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I got in this game at 2009. That's crazy to think about. And like spatial units are already getting legends, and they came out in 2012. Huh.
That's crazy. No, don't legend this Stampa boy, but thank you. I don't want to mess up your name, boys. And my friend Pummy. I can't say her name right. I'm sorry about that, but I think a fair cost 700 points for the Stampa.
Yeah.
People aren't going to spam them. You still got to pay the baby mech tax. 700 points, get a couple more units, and he might actually be legit because people already play and can do some stuff with them. I've had some fun runs with them. So play your Stampas, dude. Now is the time. Never was the time before. Now is the time. And one more get is Wicked Joe for 10. Waaagh the gifted memberships. Always generous, Wicked Joe. He was a squig lover for so long, and the squigs have finally failed him. He's moved over from the Squig Hog Boys, moving over to Gaz and Warhorde. I appreciate that, Joe, and I appreciate you. Thank you for being generous and playing Helldivers with me. Whoa, did that get?
Dude, we need a 40k Helldivers crossover. We need
right? Dude, we need
that would
something.
be so cool.
That'd be so good. I look forward to it. I have a feeling in my heart that even Space Marine 2 is gonna get Orks reintroduced in like a DLC or something at the very least. But I want to do like with Left 4 Dead. If you guys ever played Left 4 Dead back in the day when they did online, where you could be the zombies. I just want to be the Orks. Like I just can't. I love to crump Space Marines because I'd say your answer was great. I don't want to copy it either, but I love killing like crumping Space Marines. It's absolutely like a pastime. Nothing better than crumping like a Dark Angel, a Blood Angel, these guys that are like, well, I'm the best, I'm the best version of Space Marine. Didn't you hear? You're like, nah, it doesn't matter who you are. But shout out to the best Waaagh Tactic dice. So shout out to our Baron of Dice. Check them out in the description for the high quality dice as they allow us to do what we do. So thank you to the support for Baron of Dice, and check out the description for 5% off because nobody likes taxes. And I clicked that on accident, but it was worth it. All right, cool. So I didn't even know how long that was up for. Did I click that a long time ago? My goodness. So yeah, I think I had that up for like 2 minutes. My bad, guys. So thank you very much. So with that being said, I think that's it for the super chats. And thank you very much, Mark Perry. That was very fun as always. The guys always look forward to hearing from you. The more DACA list that you got is pretty crazy and outrageous. We'll look forward to seeing how you do at the GT this weekend. So be sure to report back and have a good time with us. We might be seeing you sooner than later. But is there anything else you want to plug or say? Let us know where the people can find you. So what's up?
Remember to throw your squig mines from your rocket truck squig buddies. They're very
for sure. And you know what? Get 2 in there. That way you have double the chance. You can get them both off. Yeah,
dude. I did charge a Demon Prince with like 2 rocket truck squig buddies, and then both of the 4-ups triggered. And I added 8 mortal wounds to it, and it was just magical because it's like, dude, 1 saw blade kills me. I'm like, I know.
That's awesome. That's totally opposite effect for me. I ran into some Plague Marines and I threw both, and I did 1 mortal wound. I was like, I'll hold you here though. I'll just tag you, So hey, I'm ultimately still won the game. So yeah, I think that's great. Buggies are. I'm all for buggies, bro. They're at that point cost. And yes, you know what? I'm not letting it go. GW, give us the Titanic Walker ability. How dare you not let the Stampas walk through walls and the Morkanauts and the Gorkanauts? Maybe because it's a transport. I don't know. But
I have a hard time imagining the Gorkanauts looking at the model walking over anything since their belly is on the ground and their legs are about yay long.
They're not walking over it, dude. They're going belly first through it.
belly ram. That's actually a great decal in the front. Oh
Instead of
yeah.
the icon of the Fort Gork or Morg, it's just a Kool-Aid man head painted up
Yeah.
with the orc face.
Oh,
Oh,
now
someone
I
do
want to
that.
get like a banner, like it just ask, like I get an artist or ask AI to make Kool-Aid Man orc going through a wall. That
Yeah,
may be
when we
my
get that
next
rule,
giveaway art.
when we get that rule, we'll do it. It's so weird how GW puts funny restrictions on us, but but it's everywhere else. So that's a conversation for a different day. But ultimately, like we said, so many good things that we still have left in the book. Sure, you might not be able to win a GT with your Cult of Speed yet, but I promise you'll have great league game, crusade games, RTT games, local pickup games. Have a great time. So the hunt as well. In some ways I was frustrated at first because I was so low on assets, but at the other time, nothing felt better than punch people with 2 AP snaggas. That felt like a whole new world. So, and falling back and charging. So there's so much left here. Meat on the bone, guys. I know that it can seem doom and gloom, but people who are in doom and gloom don't necessarily understand 40K the best sometimes, or they're just so invested that they're hyper emotional. So remember, we're here for the fun. We're not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time. So Mark Perry, any last words?
Remember, guys, what's the catchphrase? We'll knock your teeth out.
It says, don't cross our wall because we'll knock your teeth out. Whoa.